everybody's in now, and certainly as people join, they'll be allowed into the room. But I just want to welcome you all here. As I say, my name's Linda Bryant, and I'm hosting on behalf of Belfast Met. So there's certainly no doubt that COVID has changed all of our lives beyond what we could potentially have imagined. But you know, whether it's face masks, visors, social distancing, and so on, today is all about how you can continue to provide the best customer service to your customers, and we're going to be talking about the different ways that you can continue to do that, provide great customer service, and just by examining the core needs of customers at this time, and ways in which business can still meet these in these challenging circumstances. So what we're doing is just providing ideas, I suppose, and facilitating you providing ideas to local businesses as to how you can continue to provide that quality customer service in spite of this. So we will take you through the various customer service scenarios, how they relate back to core customer needs, and the aim is to provide solutions that meet those needs in a new and innovative way, in a different way that still works. So we have a local business going to provide a short overview of how it's experiencing business at the moment and how it has successfully adapted to meet the customer needs. And we also will be breaking you out into breakout rooms on Zoom. And you'll be engaging in a little bit of discussion there about how has customer service changed your business. Okay, what worked, what didn't, and hopefully that will provide some common areas, I suppose, that will provide you with solutions. Now, those discussions will be summarised by breakout room hosts. And do not worry about the technology. Someone very important in the background will push a button, and you'll be automatically put into a room, and you'll be given a countdown for when we will bring you back into the main discussion. So I hope that's reasonably sensible or reasonably understandable. But I want to first of all make sure you've got a coffee or something beside you, hand over right now to Belfast Chamber President Michael Stewart, who's going to welcome us all today.
Well, good morning, everyone. You're all very welcome to this Let's Do Business webinar series. Thank you, Linda, for the introductions. Today is the start of a great partnership between Belfast Chamber and Belfast Met, one which is aimed at giving business extra skills to work through what is a very challenging trading environment. Belfast Chamber, we're delighted to partner with Belfast Met, and I'm personally delighted to be here to launch the first in the series of the webinars. Today's webinar, Adapting Customer Service During the COVID Crisis, will be the first in our 6-part series. I've been involved in the hospitality industry in Northern Ireland for 35 years. I've come through financial crises, I've come through dot-com crisis, I've come through the Troubles, but never have I ever experienced anything to the magnitude of what we're going through at the moment. So I'm particularly interested today, because obviously hospitality is very customer service orientated. So the series has been designed to help companies navigate through the challenges of the pandemic. Belfast Met and their professional staff are here to help us as business owners, managers and staff, and also to help us find ways to improve our offering, to brush up on our digital skills, and to strengthen our teams using apprentices. At Belfast Chamber, we represent over 500 members from a full range of commercial enterprises, ranging from retail to hospitality, professional services, solicitors, estate agents, property developers, media tech companies. The list goes on, transport, everything. And we aim to deal with a wide range of issues affecting trade and commerce in Belfast. So the unadulterated plug, if you aren't a member and want to find out more about being a member, then Martina Conley, our head of business operations, is on this call, and she'd be more than happy to talk to you, as would I. So listen, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to hand you back to Linda, and hopefully you enjoy the, I was going to say the show, but hopefully you enjoy the webinar. Thank you.
Michael, thank you very much indeed for that warm welcome. So, as I said, we have 2 speakers for you today in this, the first of 6 events. Our first speaker is Shifra O'Reilly. We have Nicola Flynn shortly after that from Beggs and Partners, the local business that I was hinting about earlier. But let me first of all talk about Shifra. She's a part-time lecturer at Belfast Metropolitan College and has been for a number of years now. But she's also a specialist independent trainer with her own business. And she specialises in delivering training programs and really servicing the customer focused industry for particularly tourism and hospitality and retail sectors. So for 23 years, she was the training and development manager for the Federation of Recent Retail Licensed Trade. So she has an enormous experience, over 30 years as a trainer, but she's also got first-hand experience of working in retail management in businesses in London and in Belfast. So may I hand over now to Shifra O'Reilly.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Linda. And my husband, Ivan Little, who used to work with you on UTV, wanted to wish you a very phenomenal good morning.
Yes.
Not everyone's going to get that one. I am delighted to have this opportunity to talk to you today on customer service because it is something I care passionately about. And the topic is caring for your customers during the COVID crisis. To give you a flavour of the themes that I will be talking about, I have made a brief introductory video that I'll show you shortly. And I'll expand on these themes as we go into the chat. After my presentation, I would like to ask any of you listening if you would like to volunteer any positive ways that you have found have worked best for you in terms of connecting with your customers during this crisis. Or indeed, how have you found the challenge of giving that friendly service with a smile when that smile is hidden behind a mask, or any new customer service practices that you have found that you've adopted since the pandemic started that have worked best for you. It'll be interesting to hear what has indeed worked best for you, or any other issues that you would like to discuss coming up later. So let's start with the video and let's hope all this technology works. And it ends quite abruptly. Sorry about that. Having gone through that little short video with that nice epic music, COVID has turned the world upside down, I'm sure you would agree, because you think back to where we're standing with it at the moment. Over 50 million coronavirus cases and over 1 million deaths worldwide have affected this world, with at least 216 countries suffering from the coronavirus pandemic. As countries are forced to take drastic measures to try and control this virus, hundreds of thousands of lives have been lost, and similar numbers of people have lost their jobs. And governments have been plunged into billions of pounds worth of debt. Treatment of other illnesses have taken a back seat as priority is given to the treatment of COVID patients. The Belfast Trust recently reported that 106 hospital procedures, including potentially life-saving cancer operations, have been cancelled. Mental health also has been put into jeopardy, and cases of domestic violence have reportedly been increased. Funerals have been downsized and families have been kept apart. All levels of education have been damaged with repercussions for years to come. Weddings too have been downsized or cancelled with a knock-on effect to the hospitality industry. Foreign travel and holidays have been decimated, and the leisure and entertainment industries have been hit badly. Sport too has suffered throughout the year, but at least it is now happening, although in a restricted way. Since last winter, the world has been struggling to cope with this pandemic. On January the 31st, the UK confirmed its first case of COVID-19. By March the 23rd, the UK was in lockdown. There was some respite over the summer months, and by July the 3rd, the UK announced an end to travel restrictions with 50 countries, and many businesses started to open up again, giving the sense that things were getting back to normal. That sadly wasn't to last. And by September, we started talking seriously about the beginning of the second wave and the tightening of restrictions again. Businesses are doing their best to survive, and the challenging restrictions on site, and in many cases trying to operate with reduced staff members, many of which are required to work from home. So this is business survival really means turning things around. And businesses are in fact doing their very best with these challenging restrictions and in many cases, limited revenues. Many businesses are surviving by reducing their staff numbers on site, while others are on furlough or working from home. And where businesses have been forced to shut their doors, like many in the hospitality industry, they have found alternative, though reduced, revenue streams through takeaways and deliveries of their products. Realistically, though, these measures may not save some businesses in the long term, but the hope of the new vaccine at least gives some light at the end of this dark tunnel. In the meantime, crucial to things turning around is to maintain customer contact with your customer base, to ensure that you can maintain loyalty as much as possible as we can to get some resemblance of normality back. Different companies are effectively reaching out to their customers through social media to keep them up to date. And others are going that wee bit of an extra mile to make even stronger connections during this challenging time. For example, during the last number of months, one local banker called over 11,200 of their older customers just to have a chat and just to see how they were getting on and to see if they or any other organisations could give them some extra help or support. So caring for your customers in a time of crisis means keeping your customers and getting new ones. And the key is to continue to offer the best possible service that you can while reflecting what your customer now needs, which is, because of limited budgets, value for money, quality good products, and of course, excellent service, with putting reliably safe systems in place to show that you care about the safety of your staff and your customers. So caring for your customers and also your staff means building trust. That trust is crucial during this continuing crisis. And the best way to build trust is to establish standards and stick to them. A COVID-safe company with the proper protocols in place is one both staff and customers can trust and are more likely to stay loyal to. The Institute of Occupational Safety and Health advocates that a thorough risk assessment followed by a consistent risk management should be put in place to support staff in all businesses, especially where that business is customer facing. 2020 has been a sharp learning curve where people have had to learn to do things very differently and work in environments that have had to become pandemic prevention centric, where PPE, masks, sanitizers, social distancing, and physical barriers have become the norm. With rigorous COVID regulations and guidance to follow and to keep pace with, companies still need to make time for maintaining good customer service relations. So good staff relations are crucial, and the trust and support of your staff to carry out the many COVID regulations effectively can only be achieved if they feel safe themselves. Any good safe management system will include good staff monitoring to ensure staff are working in a safe environment with the correct PPE and shields and are not working with other staff who may have been exposed to the virus. Some businesses, in fact, may have found that taking staff temperatures daily a helpful precaution to carry out. Having rigorous risk management in place will help your staff to feel secure enough to all pull together to ensure regulations are enforced safely. Thorough staff training in the new systems is crucial for successful operation. Staff should be sufficiently trained so that they completely understand the importance of what they're doing and how to do it with confidence and conviction. Support and backup should be given to staff who may have to deal with reluctant customers who are tired of all the regulations and may present challenging behaviours. So the customer service standards that can be important to stick to and monitor are time, communication, accuracy, accessibility, friendly service, efficiency, product knowledge, managing expectations, and complaint handling. So let's look at time. How long are your customers waiting to be served due to COVID regulations? How long are they waiting in queues, potentially making it unsafe for them, especially if not every customer is wearing a mask? With regard to communication, how clear and frequent are your signs around your stores, shops, or businesses? How clear are your staff's instructions to your customers? And with regard to accessibility, ensure that your service continues to be accessible to everyone, including your customers with a disability. Be sensitive to customers who have a valid reason for not wearing a mask if they have a hidden disability. And with regard to hidden disabilities, the sunflower lanyard is now more easily available, and wearing one will take the pressure off a customer to explain why they may not be wearing a mask if they are exempt. The lanyard indicates that a person has a hidden disability and may be exempt from mask wearing. It also indicates that they may need additional support, help, or even more at service time. And in that respect, they are similar to the Great Jam, Just a Minute card initiative created by the Now Group here in Belfast. The sunflower lanyards are free of charge in large stores like Tesco's and Sainsbury's from the customer service desk, and there's no need to provide proof of disability. The Hidden Disabilities Group also produce, for a small fee, a badge which says, "I lip read, please could you remove your mask?" which is sometimes. And I'd be interested to know your thoughts later on about the issue of wearing the lanyards, or if any customers have come into your organisations wearing them, to see in fact if they're indeed in much use. With regard to staff, do not panic. If things go wrong, learn, improve, review, and go forward that way. And if your staff are anxious, they need to know that you are doing everything that you can to avoid putting them at risk. If your systems are not working as well as they should, ask your staff who are customer facing on a daily basis to tell you what they think is not working or as it should. For example, are customers not following the one-way systems? If so, report this to the internal designated officer, COVID officer who can review and the system that you have in place and propose perhaps changes to improve, for instance, customer flow. So there's a sign you would be very familiar with now: hands, face, and space. Have ample signage and ample supplies of sanitizer. I remember going into a garage recently, and the sanitizer had run out, and it looked like it had been nobody was about really, or free to top it up, which is a little bit disconcerting if you don't have your own handy pack with you or your own handy supply with you. A designated COVID officer should be checking that supplies have not run out, that customers are not lost and doubling back on themselves or going against the one-way system. The same person or even a PA system can gently remind and thank customers for following the hours and social distancing. The use of the PA system is a quite nice reminder. Different, I think Sainsbury's have one and H&M have one that I have noticed personally. And that's just a nice, polite, gentle thank you to the customers that can hear it, and for social distancing, just an easy way to do it. COVID doesn't have to make service interactions miserable. Dispel that despair by maintaining good relations with your customers. As we may be facing further restrictions before Christmas, our anxiety levels may start to rise again. So in many ways, we need to have a better understanding of our customers. Are they regular or new to your business? Are they local? Do you know them by name? And if so, do you make sure your service is personable by greeting them using their name whenever possible? Always a very useful device in good customer service. Do you understand what they want from your business and how you can help them? And if you don't know your customers because they are new to your business, engage with them and get to know them so that you can make each visit to your business both friendly and efficient. Just something I'm sure you're doing all the time as extra professional people in customer service. So with regard to the environment, show your customers that you have their best interests at heart by maintaining a safe environment, which is up to date and with the latest regulations, which are constantly changing, and your staff are pleasant and happily working as a team to keep you and themselves safe by following the regulations. What many customers want is simply that reassurance that your premises is safe. Our first visit to a pub after the first lockdown was very reassuring and inviting. It was also the first most rigorously controlled environment we had been into since coming out of lockdown. It was very obvious that they had given a lot of thought to their COVID protocols, and the staff clearly had gone through a thorough training process prior to reopening. We felt completely safe in their premises. 2 members of staff greeted us at the front door and politely asked if they could take our temperatures. They pointed out the foot-operated sanitizer for us to use. They explained clearly that a member of staff would take us to our table and that we could be there for the time allowed. Both staff at the front door were wearing face shields. Inside, the staff were wearing both face shields and masks, not leaving anything to chance. Every table had a sanitizer, and tables were well separated by attractively decorated perspex dividers. Table service was consistently good in that it was very attentive, and we didn't have to ask for anything, and we were able to relax and enjoy the experience without worry. That for us was reassuringly safe customer service in that experience. Well, you know, with regard to one of the key principles of good customer service, it's very much the adage that first impressions are lasting impressions, which is what, thanks to COVID, there are a lot of rules now and regulations to follow and do's and don'ts. Sometimes staff have to work harder to make the customers feel welcome to overcome all these regulations and rules that they're faced with. Now, I may be one of a dying breed, I hope not, but I'm more of a high street shopper than an online hopper. But thanks to COVID, my opportunities to shop on the high street have been severely curtailed. As soon as the non-essential shops were allowed to reopen, I was out there, because nothing beats that great personal friendly face-to-face customer service you can get in a non-essential shop. On my first visit to a well-known high street store, my expectations were high. I stood outside in the queue, which was very small, I must admit, but I waited and then I entered. I sanitized and nothing. First impressions are indeed lasting impressions. I still remember it vividly. When I say nothing, I mean no one. Not one member of staff was visible. It was like the Mare Celeste. It was pre-floor arrows, so I and other hapless customers wandered around aimlessly for what seemed like an eternity. Still, Once the thrill and novelty of the shopping trip wore off, the anxiety of the lurking virus waiting to catch me unguarded kicked in, and I started to get the feeling that it would be better to speed up this brief treat as soon as possible and get out of there. I can still remember the moment I asked another amazed customer who looked as bewildered as me, "Have you seen any staff about?" I asked. Eventually, one distraught, distracted, disengaged member of staff appeared to give the most rudimentary, disinterested service I ever had. My expectations were high on this, my first non-essential shopping trip out, but my experience was very low. Needless to say, I haven't been back. Contrast this to the first reunion with my family at a hotel for lunch. This was the first outing with my lovely but vulnerable 86-year-old stepmom and my sisters. What we got was welcoming, patient and good-humoured service with an understanding of our anxieties because we were out with our vulnerable stepmom. They followed rigorous COVID protocols, including temperature taking and a simple but effective internal track and trace system, but in a very empathetic and pleasant way that made us feel very reassured. Nothing was any trouble, and we were made to feel very special during our first reunion lunch. Just the tonic we all needed. It's such a shame that the hospitality businesses have been so hard hit, as they in many ways do offer an essential service for our mental well-being. One of the friendliest ways to create a good first impression that I have found is to have a person at the point of entry, giving reassuring and a friendly welcome, while at the same time controlling the customer flow and keeping everyone safe, reminding them to use sanitizer, etc. A quick engagement with the customer can achieve so much. A masked server, however, may be slightly disadvantaged in conveying that welcome. However, never underestimate the power of eye contact. Face-to-face communication with limited non-verbal input can be challenging, especially when non-verbal signals are normally 55% of how we communicate. Normally only 7% of our verbal communication and 38% of our tone of voice conveys what we really mean. But with masked facial expression, it makes it an awful lot harder to communicate clearly with our customers. So how do we combat this with a large part of the face is masked? And how do we understand the customer fully if we can't see all of their face? And how can we make ourselves understood if we can't use the full effect of all our own facial expressions? We have to try to increase the percentage of the impact of our verbal communication when we are masked to have a real effect. So every effort has to be made to speak clearly and concisely as we can to our customers and clients. Can you actually see that I'm smiling now? I wonder. So it's a whole new experience for us, although maybe you're getting more used to it now. Well, how do you feel when you're talking to somebody when you're masked? I'd be interested to hear your views. Face-to-face communication, for effective communication with your customers, obviously the best solution is not to be masked, but if a server is not behind this protective screen and has to go out on the floor, for example, a clear mask or face shield can at least make it easier for your facial expressions to be more easily understood. Mask wearing has made communication very difficult and crucial to good customer relations to try to understand your customer in spite of the obvious barriers. So if they're masked up, quite often it's hard to read your customers. So that's an important thing to think of, not just of your own facial expressions, but are you understanding them properly if you can't really see or read them properly? It requires greater effort on our part to actually show we understand our customers and to be understood by them. To do this, we need to give the customer our complete attention and listen effectively, not just to the voice, but also to the messages, the eyes that the eyes are sending. A bit of eyebrow action and the eye action can tell a multitude. So both understanding and empathy can be shown effectively through a simple head nod and the appropriate eye contact. But only the eyes can tell what you truly feel. Therefore, good direct eye contact with your customers is essential. To be clearly understood, it is also very important to give the right spoken responses so that you can make up for the hidden or masked facial body language. Communicating effectively through a mask does not come naturally to us, unlike other cultures where face coverings are the norm. We have to try that wee bit harder to effectively communicate in customer service. This is crucial. Spare a thought for your customers also with hearing loss. Action for Hearing Loss, or RNID, which is the name they're now going to be reverting back to, state that 287,500 people in Northern Ireland have a hearing loss, and an estimated 71.1% of the over 70s have some form of hearing loss. Not being able to lip read because of a face mask makes communication extremely difficult. And as reported to me recently by a sign language interpreter, this has caused great anxieties within the deaf community especially. An alternative is the face shield, or speaking through behind a screen, or a plastic face mask, which are now more common than they were at the beginning of the pandemic. Or simply pulling down the mask and socially distancing can help to communicate clearly with someone who has a hearing loss. Understand that the customer journey has now changed and what works best for both of you. Priorities have changed, and your duty of care to your customer is very much part of the customer's journey. Everything now has that element of keeping your customers satisfied while also keeping them safe. Try to understand your customers' motivations and their need for reassurance. COVID has changed the customer's journey in many ways. Consumer worlds have shrunk to the confines of your own homes and gardens, and in many cases for both living, working and socializing. As COVID wreaks havoc around the world and it is out of control in many countries, people have responded by at least taking control of their own spaces, by doing their best to make them more comfortable to live in. While certain businesses have thrived due to new customer service trends, others have struggled. For example, home and garden improvements and coffee shops, sit-in or take-away mode, have all seemed to have done very well. But other products such as fashion and have been hard hit because of travel and outings have been curtailed. Understand what motivates your customer now as the COVID world dictates the pace and pattern for society. Be customer-centered. At the core are the new wants and needs of our customers. So, empathy is your secret weapon. Though trying to understand your customers' motivations while maybe not agreeing with them isn't always easy, but for some customer relations, it's a starting point. Keeping customers safe during COVID has meant that in some cases, some server interaction is now required, where before self-service was the norm. In hospitality environments, social distancing and limiting people's exposure to others outside safe bubbles means that table service now replaces counter service and less self-service. To ensure good quality table service, be attentive to your customers all the time to prevent them needing to leave their table unnecessarily. Observe, engage, and serve. Ask key questions to make sure that they have everything they need. Another thought, don't always wait to be asked for help. If a customer is looking lost, offer your help. Or if they appear to be if you're doing table service and they appear to be not relaxing and enjoying getting on with their meal perhaps, maybe go over and inquire if they have everything that they need. Anticipate your customers' needs and be proactive. For example, your customers are not likely to want to spend too long in your business environment, as they may not feel very safe surrounded by other mobile customers. Understand this and make their stay time efficient. If a long queue has formed, for example, outside your store, find out what they're looking for and advise them of the in-store location if they're unfamiliar with your store. Give your customers updates on stock, for example, if you run out of, as we did in the at the beginning of the first pandemic, pasta, loo rolls or booze, like many stores did at the beginning. as they may need to come back another day or later on in the day once you've restocked. Thankfully, we shouldn't be facing that scenario that you were looking at on the screen now, as that level of panic has gone and we have learned that shops have ample supplies now these days. If you know the possible waiting time for entry to your store, if there is a queue, let them know so that they can make an informed choice about whether to wait or come back later. As Christmas shopping is due to start soon, it may not all be online. Some may be hopefully going to their shops to give them some business. So queues may start to form again. Well, doing that, at least if asking if you could help or shorten the queue in any way, it's good management of expectations and good risk management at the same time. COVID has profited some companies, particularly one in online construction products and DIY stores. Apparently there is a profit to be made during this challenging time. One online construction product company that I came across experienced a 126% increase in 6 months due to homeowners using lockdown and furlough time to work on large-scale home and garden improvements. They put their strong performance down to recognizing the change in customer habits and investing in improved customer service. They focused on seamless and reinvigorated user experience and created a new on-site personalization solution to make it easier to find the products they needed for their projects. The chief financial officer of this online construction product company said, "This commitment to putting the customer first and anticipating their needs and priorities has proven to be the correct strategy for us financially." Another important thing to think about is getting feedback. It's important that your system and your protocols are effective and that your customers feel safe and welcome at the same time in your business. Make sure that whatever COVID system you have in place is effective. One craft shop that I read about recently on social media was applauded by the customer who was commenting that, "I really loved your supply of stock and I was it was great to be in your store again, and just thank you. I felt very safe because social distancing was well organized." So that was a bit of positive feedback for that craft shop. Check your social media for comments. Ask members of staff who are working on the floor for their observations about customer behavior in response to your systems. Are they seeing confusion, misunderstanding, or simply not recognizing or missing the advisory signs? Respond and take corrective action. I have seen some places where the floor areas are completely confusing and other places where steps have been taken to create physical barriers with product displays to keep the customer flow more controlled. So, and finally, my message is to do your best to build the customer loyalty by truly caring for your customers in these challenging times. I have to be honest, myself and my husband haven't been to the biggest store nearest us for our main grocery shopping, but to a smaller one, and mainly because they have actually had from the very start very tight procedures. It's a smaller store, smaller grocery store, but they maintain that. They have absolutely maintained it and are very strict about their one-way system. And where people have got confused, they have taken corrective action, have now actually put physical barriers to only give you one choice to go one way. So we're comforted by that, and that's why we are loyal to them. Empathy is key to understanding how the customer's journey has changed because of the way COVID has limited their choices and how the regulations you have put in place have had to change their expectations of your business. People are under a lot of pressure at the moment, and many hidden anxieties may impact on how your customers react to your frequently changing business environment. What can mitigate against some of these anxieties is how we interact with each of our customers. Now more than ever, good customer service matters. And if we want to keep our regular customers and attract new ones, it is time to make that extra bit of effort to engage effectively with our customers in a safe environment. Understand your customers, observe, engage, and serve. Good customer service, after all, isn't rocket science. It's people science. And we can all achieve good customer service with the right amount of goodwill and effort. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Shifa, thank you very much indeed. Some really good insights there to good customer service in these challenging times. Observe, engage, and serve. So three key words there. And just before I forget, if you pass on my best wishes to your lovely husband, who I used to work with, Ivan Little, that great, do indeed.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. Will you stay with us just for a moment? We're going to do some
Certainly.
and indeed, that's one thing I forgot to say, just going into this presentation by Shifa. There is a chat area in Zoom, so you can contribute there. We're going to keep Shifa for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, so there's still time. A few people have put questions in, but if you have a question on what she said, if you want further clarification, please do go into the chat area and put your question in there, and we'll try to get through it before we introduce our next speaker, Nicola. So let's go straight away to some questions. So, oh yes, there was an interesting one coming here, because this actually happened to me, Shifa. It's all about technology, and you know, when you go out these days and you used to be handed a menu, these days sometimes you're asked to go onto the app and you know, go in there, and the menu is all on the app, so very much technology dependent. And this attendee says, my dad still has a Nokia 3310. So how do you stay safe? You know, because some people are complete technophobes. How do you stay safe but also ensure that you look after customers maybe can't really cope with that new normal in terms of technology? So have you seen any really good examples of that?
Well, I have. I mean, I'm happy to say we've been brave enough to go out and eat out to help out. Wasn't that the slogan?
That was.
And we've done our bit to do that. But with if the older customer, the more mature and less tech-savvy customer, it's a bit terrifying when they're handed a piece of technology they know nothing about. Is it your dad, you said? At least he had a phone. My 86-year-old stepmom, who's adorable, has a phone, never keeps it charged up, therefore it never works, and she never has it with her. So if anybody handed her a piece of technology and asked her to pick something, it would be terrifying. One of the key things I talk about is understanding your customers, and not really everybody is au fait with technology, and it can be terrifying. So if just look at your customer. If they're a bit unsure, obviously you have to respond and quickly, and just say, look, sure, tell me, I'll talk you through it, and I'll tell you what the options are, and I'll put it in for you. If that is, you just have to work along and be understanding, and not and sort of don't alienate the customer because they're not au fait. It's just not everybody's cup of tea, if you like.
Exactly. It's about working with them, isn't
Correct.
it?
It really is.
And that empathy, you know, you said it many times there, empathy is key. Maybe I could just do a quick plug for Ewan McKillop, who came in there on the back of that question and said, I own a bar app, which has proved quite popular over recent months, but the venues that use my app have the option of a staff service for those who do have the Nokia 3310, or like my own mother never uses their mobile phone except to phone other people. When the staff can serve customers quicker in general, overall it's a better customer experience. So, you know, there you go. There's an opportunity for people to actually get further engaged with customers. And interesting what you're saying as well about eye contact. And it seems to me that, you know, in this new normal, as people have been calling it, we need to brush up on our communication skills, really, and push that. So if you've any questions, as I say, please do put them into the chat. I'll do one more actually. Let's see where we are. Is there a role for technology? There's one. And we may have touched on this already, Shifa. Is there a role for technology to assist both staff and customers alike for a safe and enjoyable experience during interactions? And again, have you seen or heard of any good examples?
Well, in terms of, I was on a webinar recently with the Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, and one of their speakers was for the name of the company. I can't remember the name of the company, but there's a whole suite of technology that can help you with regard to keeping good, safe protocols in place. and internal track and trace for staff and everything else, and it makes it much easier. So if anybody is a member of the Chamber, is also a member of the Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, it's possibly worth going to investigate. It'll probably be recorded like this is recorded, to see what that webinar was, to find out about those pieces of technology that you can use to keep your system right and up to date. If that's what you meant, as you meant with regard to keeping the.
Well, I suppose anything really that would help. I'm reading out a question here from a delegate, so hopefully that'll have helped in some way. But just very briefly, I'll squeeze in another one here. Someone who's asking, on behalf of her daughter, his or her daughter, who is new to a customer service role in a busy shop. A lot of customer-facing staff are fearful of their role as enforcers or COVID marshals. Now, I know that we have them here in the Met as well. You know, every day someone is charged with, you know, making sure that people are following the regulations and keeping us all safe. But a big fear is getting it wrong and maybe a situation escalating or losing customers through maybe being seen as enforcers. So how do you advise that people in that situation manage customers that refuse to comply?
Well, I suppose in many ways training is key. Training and preparation. No member of staff should be put out in the front and expected to be enforcers. I mean, I've heard quite often servers saying, I'm not paid enough to do this. You know, that would be kind of the... And you can understand that. And in certain places where maybe there's only one member of staff on duty at a time and they don't have backup if things get difficult, where young people are coming in perhaps. And I've seen it happen in shops where maybe one or two members of staff only, somebody's on the till and somebody else is stocking the shelves. There isn't a lot of backup there in terms of dealing with a confrontation if it happens. So training is key to prepare, maybe role play to prepare that member of staff. And also reading your customers to maybe not try to enforce something. If the person doesn't feel safe by saying, look, I really think you should wear a mask, don't say it. I mean, don't do it. You may feel like you have to enforce it, but unless you've got backup, it's a balancing act. I did see a situation where somebody who with conviction and confidence because of their training said to three young guys coming into the store, sorry lads, you can't come in here, no masks, no entry. And it was pleasantly enough done and done with a bit of conviction and confidence. But without that, don't take it on. If you're not sure, do your normal job of customer service, but just be careful of your boundaries in terms of what you're trying to achieve. Don't try to enforce it if you can't do it effectively, because it possibly cause a confrontation. Because there's a lot of people out there are very happy to follow the regulations and are in denial or just totally unhappy about it and believe it as a denying of civil liberties and, you know, those issues. So it's not easy. It really isn't easy.
And I suppose, as you say, it's the way that you approach these situations, you know, and all the skills of a diplomat really perhaps are needed at some stage. But thank you very much indeed, Shifa, for your presentation.
You're welcome.
I have to say, I do feel for the deaf and hearing impaired community who actually very much depend on lip reading, and you mentioned it from an Action for Hearing Loss, or RNID, you mentioned it in your presentation. So I suppose it's all about reading a situation and gauging how you respond to it. Thank you so much for your presentation.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So we're going to move on to our next speaker, but let me just also plug, we are taking questions. So if you do have any questions for our next speaker, indeed, put them into the chat box there. And I've been asked to remind you, I'm sure you all know because you use Zoom probably on a daily basis, but if you go into the view that you should have is side-by-side speaker view. So if you go to the top right-hand side where your settings are and change your view options, go to side-by-side speaker view, and there you will get the chat, and you will see what everybody else is saying too. Okay, so we're moving on now to our next speaker, and she is Nicola Flynn from Beggs and Partners. And Nicola's been with Beggs and Partners, as a well-established local name in Northern Ireland business. and they're plumbing and heating merchant, of course, and she's been there for about 9 years. She is Group Retail Sales and Marketing Manager, and her role is multifaceted and diverse. She's responsible primarily for running 11 bathroom showrooms in Northern Ireland and in Britain. And she also manages the marketing of the group's 4 divisions. She's a graduate of the University of Dundee, and she has a degree in leadership and professional development, and has also recently completed a level 7 postgrad in leadership and management here at our very own Belfast Met. Quick plug there for that. So please may I introduce Nicola Flynn.
Hi Linda, thank you for that. Shifra, that was wonderful. Your insights there were fantastic, and I think that we can all agree 2020 has been a massive learning curve. We're learning as we go. It's little by little and baby steps along the way. So this kind of initiative with Belfast Met and the Chamber of Commerce is really valuable. And thank you for undertaking that. So I will skip on to my presentation, and really to set the scene, I think a little bit of organisational context is important. I won't bore you too much, but I'll give you a little bit of background and organisational context. Our history. Beggs & Partners are a plumbing and heating merchant established in Belfast in 1960. We are still family owned and operated. We're best known for quality, stock holding capability and capacity, and customer service. This is our 60th year. We had a year-long celebration planned. We had promotions, we had lots of giveaways, lots of customer prizes, and everything culminating in a big party. None of that happened, unfortunately. COVID put paid to our best efforts, and unfortunately we have given ourselves a break this year and just dealt with what we needed to deal with as we moved along. Corporate overview and a little bit of a divisional breakdown. We have 11 branches, 6 home branches, which are Belfast, Ballymena, Newtownards, Portadown, Lisburn, and Maharana. In 2017, we acquired 4 new branches in Greater Essex. We have subsequently opened another branch in the beautiful Cambridge city of Cambridge in London as well. Our divisional breakdown is important. We are 50% of the business is our plumbing and heating trade sales counters, which we would call our core business. Really what we service through our core business are plumbers, builders, white van man quite often, and the local M&E companies. It's a growing division and it's really important. As a stocking merchant, it's a massive part of our business. The remaining 50% is a 3-way split between retail, which is my division, the bathroom showrooms, where we supply bathroom product as well as designer radiators and tiles, for example. We then have our contract sanitary ware, which supplies sanitary ware to large-scale projects, things like hotels and hospitals. And we have our commercial heating, heavy plant-based heating provisions. Such a diverse business is it's difficult to get kind of one procedure in a situation as we've just had that is right. There's no one size fits all. So going back to our 60-year anniversary in January, our plan was to focus very much on our people, on the story of Beggs & Partners and on what we had done in the last 60 years. And we undertook a lot of social media activity based around the people who have made Beggs & Partners the success that it has been in our milestone year. In March, however, things began to change and real fear set in. And we could feel it from our customers. There was suddenly talk of supply chain chokes and not being able to get product, etc. There was a real palpable fear out there. Our message was, we are stable, we are stock holding, we are here, we've been here for a long time, and we want to ensure that we can support you going forward. That was the message that we promoted throughout March. By mid-March, lots of things began to change. And what had been fear began to be realised as the lockdown was announced. And suddenly we had to make big decisions, lots of changes had to be made, and there was a major rethink really to be done. As an essential service supplier, our role was to support and underpin the sectors that would not close. We remained open, albeit approximately 15% of the business remained open, supplying products to meet essential services. We provided, for example, some sanitary ware to the Nightingale hospitals, including the Mater there, and we supplied product to things like hot water provisions in garages. Those things were actually mobilised fairly quickly, and we had to be on the ground doing that. So that's what we did. As I said, it was a small percentage of the business, but what we undertook to do there was to really meet our customers' needs as much as we could. Our senior management team initiated a weekly meeting. We were assessing, adjusting, and communicating. That's just a quick example of one of the notifications that we put out weekly, where effectively we were saying certain branches were open for a limited amount of time, the product that we had, what the availability was, and what the procedures were. We had to be really careful to get that right. We wanted to ensure that our customers knew we were there, albeit in a much reduced service, but that we were there, and that we would ensure that if a nurse's boiler broke down, that the plumber could go and do a repair and get that sorted. That was really important to us, and thankfully we managed to do that quite well. Our communication at the time supported the government guidance, while we also promoted things like mental health awareness. We're a male-dominated industry, and we're very aware of the mental health challenges in our society. Things like safety in the home, supporting shop local, they were some of the messages that we undertook as well. As an established company, we felt it was really important to have that kind of elder role, if you like, where we were steady, we were leading from the front, and we were making sure that we toed the government line and the government guidance in every way that we could. But we tried to educate people. We tried to keep people on as much as possible our page. Our reputation has been established. Obviously, we're 60 years old at this stage, and we have long-standing customer relationships, and they're all built on our core principles of quality, service, and value. We have 4.78 overall rating. That fluctuates, as you can imagine, from time to time, but our position has always been that we are a safe pair of hands. We've been around for a long time. We're steady. We have stock on the ground, and we will do the right thing to ensure that our customers and our staff are safe. That was really important to us. Keeping our customers and our staff safe, when there wasn't a textbook in advance, if there was, someone hit it really well, because we just had to adapt and tweak and modify as we went. So we put in a one-way system, one in, one out policy on all of our trade sales counters, 2 meter social distancing, hand sanitizers, perspex screens. We instigated a system where we set up new email addresses for each branch, where you could do a quick order. So you could be ordering at 10 o'clock at night, for example, and we would have the product ready for our customers the next morning. And the same with telephone orders. We have a lot of customers who still use, for example, fax, and who'll still, call up Jimmy because they know him, and they've been dealing with him for 25 years. We tried to streamline that system so that there was a bit of uniformity and that it could be consistent. It worked really well. We had designated collection points for all of those pre-orders, which meant that we limited customer interface as much as we could. There wasn't that, immediate kind of someone having to take copper off someone else. We tried to have it all set out and as easily established in advance. All our staff advisors, we were loading customers' vans for them to try and keep things nice and slick. And we increased our delivery runs. We added new routes all through our local area here in Northern Ireland, and our GB operation as well. At the time, we said, because of the retail operation having obviously to step back, as well as many of the other divisions, we decided, look, we should pause and reflect. Again, taking that kind of that elder role, this had happened, we just had to deal with it. So what we began to do was put out some social media posts about what we had done over the last 60 years, some of the projects that we had been involved in. We just took a little bit of time to savor that and to reflect that and say, this is our journey, we are now in this position, we will come through this, but look, this is what we have done. That actually went down really quite well, and it was nice to have customer engagement. even when we couldn't have direct customer engagement within a showroom environment, for example. That messaging actually got really good traction, and it was great to see. As restrictions began to ease, we began to introduce, I think it was around mid-June, appointments for our showrooms. Now, it was specific branches again in the first instance. Appointments were all pre-arranged, pre-booked. It actually kept us very efficient, because by the time a customer came into the showroom, quite often we knew if it was a new house, if it was a refurbishment. We had an opportunity to say to them, do us a favour, bring in some images, bring in a little sketch, and it meant then we could actually get ahead. As demand increased, we brought in new staff. We brought in staff as and when we needed to. Again, just as demand began to grow. So what we did initially in Belfast, for example, it was manned by one person. We were getting an appointment or two a day, and we thought that that would probably go on for a longer period than it did. However, there was more demand than we had anticipated, and bit by bit we began to open another branch and another branch and bring back more and more people to the point where ultimately in September we were fully reopened in all branches. Our concerns were around our staff and our customers. How would we ensure that they were safe and that they felt safe? We have some staff members who had either reasons to be shielding themselves or to be shielding because of a family member. We took account for that, and we made sure that their immediate line managers were well aware of the situation, and if need be, if they had to work from home, then they worked from home. If they needed to just stay out of the business for a little while longer, then we did that as well. Where are we now? So, quite a while down the road, and it's actually hard to believe when you kind of put this in a timeline context, just how far we have come. Analysis of our data actually shows that although footfall is down quite often, particularly within the showroom environment, our productivity and efficiency are up. Sales are really good. Pros at the moment, we've had a steady recovery after an initial shock. Government stimulus, things like the furlough scheme was excellent, and I think that created the safety net, even mental safety net for a lot of people that was needed. The zero stamp duty to a certain threshold on house sales has also been really good, and we have definitely seen that housing market has really continued to be strong. Our dedicated team of expert staff have their own clientele, and they have returned to us again and again, which is fantastic. We have excellent supply relationships, we have fantastic warehousing capability. Again, as a lot of our competitors are beginning to struggle and find that they're having stock outs and they're having choke points, thankfully at the moment we don't. We don't know what's coming down the road, obviously, but we've been in front of it, and we've ensured that our supply is fully stocked. The home renovation market, as I've said, has continued to be really strong. Cons at the moment, if you can call it cons, like I say, we are where we are. There's a significant investment to make our staff and our team safe. Supply chain anomalies, there are some anomalies out there, and we're beginning to feel that a little more as this kind of goes into a second wave. Staffing challenges, just being aware of how to manage our staff. So for example, we have bubbled groups of individual staff on trade counters, so that if one of those groups, one of those bubbles is taken out, for example, we aren't left high and dry. We have a bubble who has been working from home in the background, and they can then come in. That's been challenging on its own, because it's something that we've never had to really think about. But we've worked with it, and we've met the demand, and thankfully we haven't been massively personally affected as a business. We have had a few people who have went down, but they hadn't had direct staff interface for those periods beforehand. Again, this is all about learning as we have went, and we do have procedures that we follow to ensure that our staff, as they move around the building, are fully masked, so that they do have provision for perspex screens, that staff interface with each other is limited. Our amount of people in tea rooms are greatly restricted now, and so people will complain sometimes that there isn't that human interaction to the same extent. But it's about safety, it's about keeping this functioning, and it's about trying to do the right thing. So this is a increasingly bigger world. There is a lot of volatility, uncertainty, much complexity, and a lot of ambiguity. But what have we learned? How do we become more agile? How do we work with this new norm, to coin a phrase? We're investing in technology, updating our CRM system. That's one thing that we really realised. Our service is so personal. It's on the mobile phones of the reps. It's on the, you know, the contacts lists of the guys. It's on all their own personal emails, etc. When it came time to actually close the business down, albeit 15% or that small amount initially, it was really hard to keep track on all of our customers. We had no one finite list that this is where we need to go. These are the people we need to contact, and this is the information we need to give them. So that's been a big learning curve for us. We need to have a really slick CRM system going forward. So when information needs to be shared, we can do that, and we can do that really quickly. We're developing an app and a web portal for customer access and servicing. This is something that we had never really, we had always known we would do it at some stage, but we hadn't got into it. Like I say, we viewed it as a little bit of a double-edged sword. Our business is such a personal service, and with long-standing relationships, we're always a little bit wary that when you go to an app, when you go to a web portal, and suddenly you don't have that same customer interaction, would we lose something? However, this experience has made us realise that we need to be scalable. This needs to work, and if things go wrong, as they did in this instance, we need to ensure that we have that safety net. So that's what we're working on at the moment. We're also building extra stock holding capacity. That's something that we will continue to do as we move along, and we're working with our suppliers to ensure that we have those reliable product partnerships. And like I say, long-standing relationships with suppliers have kept us in really good stead here. So when product shortages happened, we didn't have those product shortages because we had such good relationships with our suppliers. So our 60th, to go back on that, we have decided that we are postponing. So it's a year of celebrations and thanks, delayed but not cancelled. Next year, 2021, will be our actual year of full celebrations. And we will basically roll everything that we had forward for that 1 year. So there'll be massive, you know, there's a party planned for later on next year. There is product giveaways, there are promotions, lots of the good things that we have done for a long time that have kept our relationships with our customers as strong as they have been for those 60 years. We are moving that forward to a new level after been battle hardened and having come through 2020. We think we definitely need an extra special celebration next year. That's just a little breakdown of our branches, some of our messaging, and we're known as the home of bathrooms, plumbing and heating since 1960, and I think that that's pretty true, and I think that after this year we've definitely earned that title. That's all I have.
Nicola, thank you very much indeed. Really good presentation. Thank you so much. And 60 years in business, how fabulous! And you know what you said there was a terrific reflection on this well-established local business, now expanded, of course, as you said, into the rest of the UK, and how you've coped over the past 9 months or so with this COVID. And good to know that you're actually going to celebrate that. But 61 is the new 60. I think we can take from your presentation.
That is the plan anyway.
And actually, let me just read out something. I know we're just slightly over time, but I want to read out one comment that came in here while you were talking, and it's from Michael Stewart, and it's specifically to you. And apropos nothing in particular that you've been talking about apart from your 60 years in business, but Michael says, the customer service must be fantastic. He says, Norman Beggs was one of our best regular customers in Bob Cratchit's. I was the general manager. He always asked for and received an inner part of the lasagna with no crust. So there you go. Maybe too much information to share, but there we go. A nice anecdote. It's amazing to remember from early days in business. So thank you very much indeed, Nicola, and congratulations to all of the team at Beggs and Partners on their 60 years, and a real testament to you know, good business and excellent customer service. Thank you, Nicola. That's our breakout sessions done and dusted. So just to welcome you all back into the room again. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to take a little bit of feedback then from, I think we had 3 breakout rooms with 3 facilitators. So we're going to take a little bit of feedback. I hope you find that useful, but let's have a chat with Rachel. Rachel, first of all, I think, who was facilitating one of the rooms. Rachel, what was the feedback? Just give us a summary there of what was discussed, and really.
Sorry, I'm only just back in 1 wee second. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
So much chat going on in our wee group.
I know we were right to the end. We were
we didn't want it to end.
That's everyone back in now, I think, isn't it?
Have we got everyone back in?
Perfect. Okay, well, just
joined us. They are
brilliant. Thank you. Well, just in our group, we kind of, we looked at the overarching kind of sector and the impact that it's had on the sector being locked down. You know, the hospitality sector, I suppose we discussed a lot more in depth on the customer service around that, but also the impact of lockdown on the sectors that follow hospitality. So the different chain of suppliers and producers, and the impact on other sectors that has. One of the members spoke about the tech sector, you know, so, you know, yes, we're a growing economy and we're one of the best in terms of IT. However, you know, we're recruiting young people who want a city center lifestyle. You know, they want to be going out to the restaurants, they want to be able to go out for drinks after work, and they want to live in the city centre. So there's that critical importance of having that hospitality sector and having that city centre life that attracts talent, I suppose, to other sectors. We also discussed the importance of leadership, both in a business and a government, and just the importance of the communication of the messaging and creating standards and sticking to them. And just a shout out as well to the local, to the hospitality companies, and not just those hospitalities, but the arts, the hairdressers, the range of companies that are sectors that have been impacted, and how they've not only, whilst they've been most vulnerable, they've turned it around and helped their local communities as well, and provided meals for vulnerable, and done what they could to feed back into the community, despite they themselves struggling as a business. So it was very positive, and we're looking to see then how we can work together to try and provide a more coherent message to support businesses and feedback to government. So it was great conversation.
A lot of positives coming out of that as well. And I mean, on the point where, you know, obviously we are trying to attract new talent to the city and so on, but I imagine every city will be going through the same thing. So, you know, we're not alone in that. The hospitality sector's been affected, and potentially in all cities in the United Kingdom that's been the case. But yeah, and interesting that leadership was brought up there. We'll not go too far into that, but
no.
Certainly, you know, it's something that seems to be a recurring theme, let's say. And thank you very much indeed for your feedback, Rachel. So our next breakout room was led by Margaret. Margaret, are you there? And
I am indeed.
Let's have the votes from your breakout room.
Well, again, our breakout room is an extremely positive place to be, so that was great. We were a mix really of business development people, and from the chamber, and from Zane and Off the Wall signage and graphic, and some other members of the business development team in the college. So I suppose really we had looked at, you know, how we had adapted and had to pivot as a result of COVID, and we felt that we were all in a position to help businesses. We certainly in the college are providing support through, you know, business support programs, and you know we have continued to do that and have had to pivot in the way we do that. I know Zane had mentioned sort of opportunities as a result of COVID, and really feeling good about the fact that they've been able to be creative in terms of provision of different products and the screens and different things that they do that are a wee bit different and a wee bit innovative and a bit nicer and cheer the place up a bit more than just sort of the standard screens that we don't like but we have to deal with, and it's become part of what we have to cope with. So and also obviously the Chamber are running events and really trying to support their client members through this, and we're all sort of trying to nurture and help and support each other. So that was one of the key takes that I got from the session. I suppose going back to the fact that we are all business development people, that face-to-face contact, that you know, looking people in the eye and chatting to them and getting to know them and building relationship has been it's at our core, and really we've had that taken away from us, and we all felt that, you know, very difficult to you know, have that same kind of relationship and spark via Zoom and via sort of, you know, different technologies and Teams meetings and that have become part of our new normal. So really there has been some benefits to Zoom, and I know that we all stated that we've been to more events and are able to attend more events, and sort of the numbers and some of the events have been up as a result of people being able to attend, or their travel time, etc. has been that's one of the challenges that have maybe have been overcome as a result, and that's always a good thing because we're getting exposed to more chatting and more information. But again, we really miss the face-to-face, and we just can't wait till that comes back. That was one of the sort of key discussion areas that we had, and we just, every one of us enjoy the job because of the variety of people we're meeting. It's just not quite the same via Zoom.
Yeah, I get that. And, you know, even in terms of my role in teaching and so on, it's actually, it's a great facilitator of getting guests into our virtual classroom. But yes, it's not the same as meeting people face to face and, you know, reading their body language and reading the situation and so on. But you, as you say, you know, you adapt, you continue to adapt, and you move forward, learning all of those lessons. Thank you very much indeed, Margaret. And finally, David, yeah. You were in the third breakout room. Is your experience similar, or have you anything new to add?
Yes, ours really focused around sort of technology and then the sort of face-to-face interactions. So we sort of, suppose, took a bit of a dive into the two companies that were in our breakout room. So one being the Be Express app that's been discussed previously. So Union, the company owner, was actually probably ahead of the curve in terms of COVID hitting, in terms of that sort of bar ordering app, and Union discussed how there was a bit of a hard sell for his customers, basically in hospitality, but also for end users in terms of wanting to use the app pre-coronavirus, and sort of discussed how as much as it's, you know, really bad, but COVID-19 has actually been an accelerator for his business, and that companies, in terms of the business-to-business sell, has been easy, but the hard sell has been that business-to-consumer sell and the customer experience. But the feedback that Union's been getting, that, you know, his particular technology is really simple to use. So his sort of feedback was, where you are bringing technology into that customer service environment, just keep it simple. So in terms of like the least amount of clicks for a user, and you know, there's some other technology platforms out there that maybe overcomplicated, oversell, try too many add-ons to the service, but really the takeaway there was keep it simple in terms of technology. Yeah. And then Nicola from Beggs and Partners was really discussing something that Nick wanted to dive into, was the less footfall versus the higher conversion. And something that Beggs and Partners have really introduced was an appointment style service. So previously, pre-pandemic, you know, their showrooms might have been nearly overcrowded with people and maybe casual browsers who were taking up salespeople's time. But now with an appointment service, they can really sit down, get to know a client, really discuss in depth what their needs are, and really match up Beggs and Partners experienced people with and tailor their service to a client's needs, whether that's new build or conversions of older properties, and really give sort of the client what they need, rather than maybe going to a store and having to wait half an hour to speak to the right person. Now it's a minimum 2-hour slot, and sometimes could be a full day spent discussing their needs. And that's where they've really seen a conversion in terms of higher, sort of better sales and better relationships. But still looking to the technology of the future. So where there's sort of lower value interactions per se, where there's like repeat customers looking sort of like a boiler for a Monday morning, they're looking to make that interaction more online. That will take up their staff's, less of their staff's time. They can focus on, higher value processes or sales, etc. So again, a very traditional model, traditional company, but still looking to the future with technology as well.
With a personal service still there. It's interesting you talk about an appointment system, because I was listening to Good Morning Ulster this morning, and there was someone representing the medical hospitals anyway, and he was talking about an appointment system for A&E, or ED as they call it now, so that that people wouldn't be sitting in a waiting room potentially spreading the virus and so on, that they would have an appointment system based on what their injury or ailment was or whatever, almost a triage of the triage, and certainly people are having to think differently and more innovatively, and I think what you've discussed there and what you've reflected back from, and what we heard earlier from Rachel at Beggs and Partners is certainly evidence of that. Thank you very much to each of our facilitators, Rachel and Margaret and David. Thank you very much for that. We're kind of rapidly running out of time here, but just a few final thoughts really before I hand over to finish back to the Chamber. Belfast Met obviously has a long established relationship with businesses in Belfast. I mean, we ourselves go back all the way to 1906, and those traditional industries when our college was founded, from rope making to shipbuilding to linen and technical apprenticeships and so on. And here we are over 100 odd years later, still supporting business in our very newest campus, which is where I am at the moment in E3 on the Springvale campus, where we continue to partner with industry in Belfast. My students at the moment are working with Stena, creating some little videos for them, and I know many of the students will partner with business and really support them in that way. But even now we still continue to support businesses, and we've fully funded programs that support innovation and skills development. We have support for people whose jobs maybe have been impacted by COVID, and there are many of those, and we're delivering fully funded online short courses as well. And in fact, there's the contact details there on the screen. You will see of our continuing webinars. This is, as I say, the first of a series of 6. Those course details are on the screen. And if you want to contact a member of our business development team, please do so with the contact details there. And they would be only too happy to meet with you and find out how we can support you in your business. So just finally to say a few thank yous to people. Thank you to the speakers today. We had Martina Connolly, Head of Business Operations at Belfast Chamber, and Michael Stewart, who I'll be handing over to shortly, President of the Chamber, and to our speakers, Shifra O'Reilly and Nicola Flynn, and also to our discussion facilitators and the whole team at the Centre for Economic Development and Social Inclusion here at Belfast Met. So do go to the belfastchamber.com website for details of those webinars and how you can get involved. And thank you to you, our webinar delegates, for attending today. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye and thank you for your time this morning. And I'm going to hand over to President of the Chamber, Michael Stewart.
Thanks again, Linda, much appreciated. And thanks to everybody involved today. I just want to say a few little words, but before I do, just to say thank you to Aidan Sloan, Head of Skills and Apprenticeships, Siobhan Lyons, Head of Economic Development, and Donna Convery, the Commercial Manager, for facilitating and helping us today. Obviously all the speakers and everybody who attended. What we find at these webinars is we get more attendance afterwards at the recorded version, so spread the word and let it go out there. Just a quick little thing, somebody said earlier that they worked in retail. So did I. Many years ago when I was at university, I worked in Marks and Spencer, the only Marks and Spencer in the island of Ireland, and we were inundated. But at my acceptance speech at the Chamber AGM, I said that I cut my teeth in Marks and Spencer and in retail. And on one occasion, the general manager of Marks and Spencer was a Scotsman called Sandy Brown. And I was a warehouse man, Saturday boy, and I was in the toilets one night at the end of the shift, and Mr. Brown was in his tuxedo, and he was getting ready, and he had the chain of office on him. And I said, Mr. Brown, that's a lovely chain. What is it? He said, well, that's the chain for the Belfast Chamber. I'm the president, and I'm going to a dinner, and I'm very proud. So ultimately what I said to the AGM was, I guess I started my presidency 37 years ago in the toilets of Marks and Spencer. And it was quite emotional because I looked, unfortunately Mr. Brown has passed away, but I looked at the chain that I was wearing, that he was wearing, and I saw his name there. And it just shows you how things are intrinsically linked in this country of ours. And Linda, you talked about 100 odd years of Belfast Met. Martina will correct me, but I think we're 102 years old as the Belfast Chamber of Trade and Commerce. So we're a very proud city. We have a great educational city. We have a great way about us. And a lot of people would always say that Northern Ireland has a problem for every solution, but I like to think that we've got the solutions to the problem. So once again, looking forward to the future with these webinar series. Spread the word. Today was great, and hopefully the next ones will be as great. So with much else to do, thank you, and go out there and be customer service focused. Thank you.